day for fundraising and for golf across Northeast Wisconsin as the U.S. Venture Open hopes to raise nearly $5 million to help end poverty. That event, which launched 39 years ago, continues to make an impact, especially in the areas of homelessness and child care assistance. Jason Zimmerman spoke with some of those taking part. He's live in Menasha with the latest on what is happening right now. Jason.
Cammie, everyone out here today is very passionate about the cause. Here in Menasha, the North Shore Golf Course is one of 6 in the region that is hosting the U.S. Venture Open. And organizers tell me they are very confident of making that ambitious $4.9 million goal. Well, it looks like a day of fun. Every golfer participating in the U.S. Venture Open knows the importance of each stroke in raising money to end poverty across Northeast Wisconsin.
The money really goes to nonprofits in our communities. And again, it's helping people who are less fortunate than ours. So people who are working and trying to make ends meet but can't. There's barriers that come into play, and so the money that we're raising today is going to support those individuals.
Jody Larson is representing Oshkosh Corporation, one of more than 700 partners participating in the event, which includes about 1,200 attendees. This year's $4.9 million goal is about $1 million more than last year, according to organizers.
Obviously, it's an enormous amount of money, nearly $5 million, but we have incredibly generous partners, incredibly generous families and individuals. So. And again, U.S. Venture pays 100% of the expense of the event, so every single dollar raised goes to end poverty.
That poverty, organizers say, isn't always visible in this part of the state.
Homelessness continues to rise in northeastern Wisconsin. The child care system's really broken. It's not affordable. It doesn't, there's just not access for people, and then those working in that system also aren't making a livable wage.
For those not able to golf, there's other opportunities to be a part of the cause.
They can go to the website, they can donate online, they can get involved volunteering. Time and talent is sometimes just as important in helping our nonprofits in our community as giving dollars. So both of those are a great effort to make sure that we solve the needs.
After wrapping up on the course today, golfers will gather at Van Abel's in Hollandtown for a dinner tonight where NFL great and former Wisconsin Badger J.J. Watt will be the guest of honor. Bill Jarts will be there as well with live reports at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and 6. Reporting live in Menasha, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.